Hey there, my name's Ray. I'm a novice woodworker, and I thought I'd share a build that I'm working on for my daughter's bed. So my daughter's been living or sleeping in a Ikea full-size bed for 4 or 5 years. She's 15 and has kind of outgrown the full-size bed. My wife and I and daughter just finished building this wood shop over the last 9 months, and this is kind of our first big project, so we thought, let's build a bed. I did buy plans from Shara's wood shop. Great, easy plans. I really like the simple approach to woodworking that she does, because I'm a simple guy. I'm a novice woodworker. My first project. Let's do an easy one. So this will be a poplar bed. It's all solid wood, and we're going to use rudimentary tools. Most of my tools are orange or green or yellow. Green of a particular flavor. I don't have any fest tool. I have a few red tools, but I'm a simple woodworker, and this is kind of budget woodworking, so we'll see how it comes out. Hope you enjoy following along, and let's see how this goes. All right, let's get into this. So a lot of folks will build larger pieces of wood by laminating 1-inch thick pieces of board to make, put 3 of those together to make a 3-inch thick piece. But we're way smarter than that. So we bought a 16-quarter chunk of poplar. This thing weighs about, 80 pounds. So moving it around was kind of fun in the shop. I don't have a saw that could actually cut through this thing all the way, so I had to use the old skill saw and with a straight edge, and then I cut through partway through it, and then I had to flip it over and cut the other way through it. It worked. If I had a 12-inch sliding miter saw, I could probably get through this in one shot, but this took care of business. Ends up, once I cut it down, I'll be able to cut the edges a little more square, but it worked out. So I'm going to make the posts out of this piece of wood, and I'm going to make the cross members for the headboard and the footboard out of this piece of wood. It's, like I said, 16-quarter, which actually means 3 3/4, not 16 divided by 4 equals 4. That's not wood math, so this is actually 3 3/4 inch thick. And I'm going to cut this thing on my contractor saw. It got through it. I wasn't very smart, though. I left the 60-tooth finishing blade on there. You can see my wife wasn't too excited about the sawdust, and Polly decided to follow her because she wasn't excited about the sawdust either. But the saw got through it. It took a while. I think this cut took 6 or 7, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, who knows. I was just pushing and pushing and pushing. But we got through it. It's a little dusty in there. So I just keep pushing. I made this outfeed table for my saw, and when it's humid, that top hardboard covering kind of swells, and so sometimes the wood on the outfeed side will get stuck, and I have to go around and finagle it. I just keep pushing here. This is a lot of fun. I do have a 24-tooth ripping blade, and that probably would have been the smarter blade to use. And in fact, I did switch over to that blade on the next 3 cuts, but I wasn't that smart on the first cut. And there we go. We got through it. That's a long cut. So we're cutting the rails to 81 inches. Queen size mattresses are actually 80 inches, but my wife wanted to have a little bit of help to be able to make the bed a little easier, so we cut the rails to 81 inches. That'll give us an extra inch of space around the mattress. Again, I have a fixed miter saw, so I had to take these 12-inch wide boards and cut part way through, flip them over, and cut the rest of the way through. It worked. Unfortunately, this is S3S wood, so the side that's up against the saw right now isn't exactly straight, so that's going to affect the squareness of my cut, and that's actually going to be a problem I'm going to fight throughout the entire build. Have this nice little cutoff piece there. So when I made this miter station, I made it 8 feet. I had enough room on the left side of the saw for 8 feet, and I have enough on the room on the right side for 3 feet. I thought it didn't dawn on me that I would ever cut a piece of wood that was longer than 3 feet on the right side of the miter station. So I went ahead and put the dust collector back in the back corner back there. And now I'm discovering that the dust collector sticks out farther than the plane of the fence of the miter saw, so I can't actually get my board square up against the saw to cut it. This is unfortunate. So I space it out. I put some spacers behind it to try to give some room around the dust collector. But unfortunately, that just makes it so that my fixed miter saw can only cut even less of the distance across the board or through the wood than it needs to. So I tried flipping this board around. I'm cutting 5 feet to the left and 5 feet to the right. So there's no way for me to fit this thing in there. I have to figure out a way to get it cut as square as I can. And I'm going to try a lot of different options here. This is poplar. We used poplar from a local lumber yard. It's a great wood. It had a lot of figure in it, really lots of grain, very pretty chunk of wood, especially after you put some finish on it. This is all 5/4 here. We use some 4/4 as well, which again in wood math means 3/4 inch. 4/4 is actually 3/4 when you measure it with a ruler. I think it has something to do with the fact that it's finished from rough sawn. So I finally just pulled out the old handsaw and said, all right, screw this. We're just going to get through this thing. Do a little shimmy, shimmy, shake, shake. And we're through. So I have a track saw here. I'm not super in love with its accuracy, but I tried it here to try to get these cuts square. And it got through it. It wasn't the cleanest cut you might want on the edge of a piece of finished board. So, but I got it cut at least, and I can try to figure out how to clean that edge up. Here's another example that I don't really know what the hell I'm doing. So there is a dust port on the back of this thing, and I have it connected to my dust collection system. But as you can see, I'm creating a pile of sawdust out the front of the device, the machine. So what I didn't know was the dust collection port on the backside filled up as soon as I turned the machine on and started running some of this wood through there. So once I open up the back and try to figure out why the hell it's not sucking dust out the back port, I find that it's completely clogged, and that's why I'm making this giant pile of dust. What was cool was once I put the 4-inch hose back on the dust collector and sucked that pile of dust out, it was kind of fun, very satisfying to watch that dust go up into the dust collector. Since this is my daughter's bed, she had to help do some of the work, and Kaya there's trying to help as well. Kaya continues to try to help throughout the build. So this is another effort, the third different method of trying to cut these long boards in a square manner. I have a crosscut sled. I clamp the board in there and use my daughter to kind of be a board support. It worked okay. Not as square as one might want this type of cut, so I'll keep trying. Madison decided she liked my safety glasses. So I decided to attach the posts to the cross members with dowels. So I used the Rockler 3/8 inch doweling jig, and this was my test joint to see how that worked out. It actually worked out really nice. Very square, pretty flush. I was very happy with it. You can see the grain in that poplar. I also decided to add a 1/8 inch round over to all the edges. So this is a tiny little 1/8 inch round over bit. It just was real subtle finish on the corners, just enough to kind of break them and make it feel nice to the hand. So I ended up cutting down all the edges, all the corners with the 1/8 inch round over. Gave it a real nice finish. And then, of course, everyone's favorite, you got to sand. That's a lot of excitement going on there. I went through all the normal grits, 120, 150, 180, 220. I stopped at 220. Didn't seem I needed to go any further than that. I kind of dance while I sand. Since again that was my daughter's bed, figured she needed to put in some of the sweat equity too, get some work done on herself. Thankfully, I have 2 sanders, so she was able to use one, and I was able to use the other. You can see she's as a typical teenager, she's extremely excited about this whole operation. I attached the headboard boards to the posts with pocket holes. I'm a little concerned about wood expansion. We'll see what happens over the years, but I did put 4 pocket holes on each side. I didn't glue them, and the pocket holes do have some movement in them, so I'm hoping that it just is able to move on its own without cracking or anything terrible. But we put one board in the footboard and one these are cross member boards, one board in the headboard. And I'm incredibly anal about where I put silly holes in my wood, so I have to make sure I measure where my pocket holes are going, as if that matters to literally anybody. But I'm going to know that they're all spaced exactly the same. So here we go. This is a glue up. This is my first big glue up. This is very exciting and stressful. You're going to find out that I really don't know what the hell I'm doing. There's probably 6 or 17 better ways to do this glue up, but I went ahead and tried to do it on its side and squirt glue into horizontal holes sideways. I'm not sure how effective that was, but the joint was tight once I got it done. I did make sure that my joint was very well covered in glue. There's plenty on there, and I made sure to actually smear it around. I've been watching YouTube too. Polly wants to make sure that everything's okay in there. Actually, she brought her ball in. She wants me to throw her ball. That's one of the challenges I have with working out in the shop is the dogs constantly bring me the ball so that I have to walk out, throw the ball for them, and then come back and work some more. So this is the footboard that I'm actually gluing up here. Get that joint put together. Little hand hammer. And then the other side. So this being a queen size bed, this is a 60-inch wide. The mattress is 60 inches with the roughly 4-inch posts. This is about a 67-inch wide total frame. So I didn't have a 65-inch or 67-inch long clamp. So I went and got the clamp, the pipe clamp kit. You buy the kit and then you have to buy the clamp, the size pipe you want to use. So I went and bought the pipe clamp kit, and then I went and bought some 6 feet long pipes, and I suddenly have 6 feet long clamps. So unfortunately, there's some sort of black residue on black pipe, so that ends up getting all over my wood. But I had to do finish sanding anyway. The other thing I discovered here is that there's some sort of twist in this wood. Probably happened as I was cutting it with my fancy contractor saw there. But there's a twist in that cross member, and you can see it's lifting the leg on this side. I figured I was able to like push it out. So once I connected the headboard and footboard to the rails, it was probably going to disappear. But it bothered me for a minute. I tried to figure out why it was doing that. I wasn't sure if it was because I had done some poor dowel drilling, or if it was just the wood was twisted. Since the headboard and footboard both did the exact same thing, I have a feeling there's just some twist in that wood that I didn't notice while I was working it. Eventually get this glued up. Polly once again make sure I'm okay. She gets her ball. And so here's my fourth effort in trying to square off the ends of these boards. And this one worked pretty well. It's a little messy, but it did work. So I clamped up a straight piece of 1/2-inch plywood, and then I used my top bearing flush trim bit in the router, and I just shaved off the end of the board. it did, other than the end where you get a little bit of tear out, and I didn't know how to clamp a piece of wood on there to prevent the tear out, other than the little last eighth of an inch with a little bit of tear out. It was nice, clean, square. So I was finally able to get that piece of wood's cut square. These are the parts of the headboard, so they're going to joint up with the posts, and so it needs to be a pretty tight fit. So these need to be pretty square. So these are the posts for the headboard. Excited about sanding. Get through that. So the plans call for just making slats and laying your mattress on the slats, but we have a box spring and a mattress, and I didn't want to just throw the box spring away, so I didn't make slats, but I needed to make some sort of side rail structure for the box spring to rest on. So I cut basically I squared up a 2x4, cut it in half, so it ends up with a 2x2, and I glued those and screwed those to the side rails to give some support structure for the box spring. In addition, I did put in 3 slats so that there was at least some lateral structure that the box spring could sit on. But I had to make these kind of Z brackets out of some galvanized brackets that I just got at Home Depot. I had to kind of modify them so that they would support the 3 slats that I did install, that they would support them flush with that rail that I'm installing here. So this is where I discover that I have never cut the hole in the end of my glue bottle bigger than the way it came, and I think it's a 1/64 inch hole in the end of that glue bottle. So I'm squeezing for all I've got, cramping up my hands, trying to get as much glue on this thing as I can, because I had, up to this point, I'd never actually done a fairly large piece of wood with glue on it. So this was an unfortunate discovery. Once I got going, I kind of couldn't stop. So I just got some hand cramps, got some facial cramps, and got this glued up. So I countersunk some screws into this piece of 2x4, and I'm going to screw that down to the rail that it's resting on right now. That's the side bed rail there. And I had to make sure that my screws weren't too long and that my countersunk holes were at the proper depth, so that once I screwed in my screws, they didn't come out the side of the bed rail. That would have been a very unfortunate situation. So I measured this, I don't know, 3 or 14 times. They say measure once, cut twice. I'm generally a cut twice, cuss once kind of guy. So this was a little bit scary for me. This was a beautiful piece of wood. I didn't want to screw it up. But it turns out that I ended up countersinking, counter drilling, or pilot drilling these holes into this piece of wood, this piece of 2x4. And here goes the first one, and it doesn't come out the bottom. I was very happy that it didn't come out the bottom, and so I went ahead and put in the rest. This actually worked out really well. Once this bed was together, this is very solid structure for the box spring. So this, coupled with the three slats that I did install, really gives the box spring a lot of structure, and the bed is very, very stable. So I went and picked up an HVLP sprayer at everybody's favorite Harbor Freight. Actually worked out great. I used a lacquer finish on this. I bought some really nice, what I thought, nice lacquer. I thinned it down 4-to-1, and the sprayer just worked great. It did create a incredible cloud of lacquer vapor in the shop, and you can start to see it as I continue to spray here. But this stuff dries so fast. I was able to put 4 coats on every piece of this wood, both sides, in 2 days. I did 4 coats on one side one day, flipped them over and did 4 coats on the second side the next day. That includes a finish sand with 320 grit between the third and fourth coat, and it just came out absolutely beautiful. It's a really smooth finish. I'm really, really happy with the way this turned out. It's a satin lacquer. It's just enough to know that it's got a finish on it, but it really doesn't take away from the look and feel. And there it is. Madison's very happy with her new bed. Kaya's very happy with the new bed. I gave it 8 inches underneath the rails on the side, so she has just enough to put a piece of luggage or, I don't know, a box of anime or whatever it is that she wants to put under there. Very, very happy with the way this came out. And that's a wrap on my first project. The family helped a lot. Madison did some sanding. Mandy did help some cutting and some design work, as well as trying to avoid some sawdust. I loved this project. I thought it came out really well. Maddie's loving her new bed. She says it sleeps great. Thank you to Shara for sharing some projects with us that even simple folks like me can complete. Hope this video wasn't too, almost said a bad word. Hope this video wasn't too lame. I guess if it is, that's the nature of YouTube. So I'm just adding another lame video to the pile. But I have another couple projects in the works, and hopefully you'll stick around and watch me build those too.